10.
Well, actually, you hit one of my movies, the Lethal Weapon, and this was back, you know, it was on VHS, so we're sitting down and watching it repeatedly, and I guess you could say you might be a redneck or a gun enthusiast if you're sitting there watching a movie like that and you're holding the guns while you're watching the movie. I mean, no one's ever done that, right?
Oh,
so
no,
you're watching, you know, World War II movies or Lethal Weapon or you know, Full Metal Jacket, and you're sitting there holding M1A while you're watching the movie. Of course, I've never done that, but no, you haven't either.
So how'd you do it unloaded?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
So you're saying I'm normal that this past episode of Justified, when I bought my Glock 19, I was holding my Glock 19 watching Justified? That's
the next one for me. Right now, if you were to say, what is a current show, and it is absolutely Justified. I cannot get enough of that show. I can't get enough of the gun action. I can't get enough of the humor, the sarcasm, the plot lines. It is probably about the most perfect show I've ever seen.
Plus, we live in the same kind of
yeah, you know, we're just a few hundred miles from where the show is portrayed.
Actually, I went to Harlan County 2 summers ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's a pretty close. Yeah, it is. Let me say one thing about the movies. If any of your listeners, including yourselves, if y'all see that movie End of Watch, please disregard everything associated with law enforcement.
Oh, yeah, with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, it's just atrocious.
I think I've seen that. That's pretty bad.
It makes law enforcement look like a bunch of hotheads and control over there.
A lot of them do that.
We do not. There's not a lot of movies out
there.
The
maker of that movie was also the maker of Training Day, which did the same thing for detectives.
That's the one I was trying to think of. That's the one that had
same maker, same people that made the same movie.
Yeah.
It is not a reflection of the patrol officers across this nation. It's just some other Hollywood.
Yeah, 10 Outdoors 9, you're kind of our expert that we had pulled in for the 9mm talk on our 9th episode. Before we get into that, I have a few questions. We threw out a question on Facebook. Any questions for 10 Outdoors 9? We got a few back. We got some odd ones, really, really odd ones.
And we got worse than what I'm getting in private messages.
We got some legitimate ones. We'll start with an odd one. This guy said, "Who do you prefer to listen to more, Loretta Lynn or Lorrie Morgan?" And that was from a guy named 22 Blinkster.
Wow.
I'm assuming that's an inside joke.
I don't know why I didn't put that together. I don't know why I didn't put that together.
Is he stating it in like today's terms or the young Lorrie Morgan? Or
it's irrelevant. Trust me, it's irrelevant.
It's an inside joke.
I don't know why I didn't put that together. So he's going to be laughing.
We also had
I can't believe that.
A legitimate one. Listener JKL Rights, "I think I have settled on getting a 357 SIG. In your 357 SIG videos, they were compared as a faster plus P or plus P plus 9mm. I'm buying it for defense purposes, and I suppose my question for 10 Outdoors 9 is, with 9mm being more scarce at this moment, is a 357 SIG a worthy investment, especially if I buy a 9mm conversion barrel?"
There's about 5 questions in that. I have my...
Dissect it how you wish.
Yeah, get this video still running. I brought one of my Glock 19s out tonight. I will tell you that's the first time that I've carried the Glock 19 in about 7 months. I started carrying 357 SIG in the Glock 32 about 7 months ago. It kind of comes back to, I think you kind of touched on training and so forth a minute ago. I think it's possible, and this is something we can talk about as we get to the 9mm discussion. I think it's very possible, and this is what my goal was. I started shooting 9mm about 12, 13 years ago, and I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of rounds I put through my Glocks. And other than that first little knockoff Browning that I had 20-something years ago, it's been the Glock 9mm. So I think you can train up to other calibers. Now, the person who's asking the question, I think 357 SIG is an excellent choice, and when you compare it to 9mm, a lot of people that are big fans of the 9mm, and I am, will say that, well, you know, when you get a plus P plus like the Winchester 127 grain, or you get some of the things that say a double tap or an Underwood ammo is loading, where they're just supercharging these velocities, and you're getting quote unquote up in the 357 SIG territory. Yes and no, and that's something we can get into as we open this dialogue with the 9. There's just something magical that happens with a 357 SIG when you get up to 1375 to 1400 feet per second.
This one says, "How long does it take Bigfoot to get into his costume?" And that's from David C.
Here's another related one also. It says,
I'm not.
"Where is Bigfoot?"
Where is
Yeah, ask him where Bigfoot is.
Yeah, that's what he said. He
Figured he would be out more, being winter and all. Also, would the Foot ever consider a 1911 for his sidearm?
Unbelievable.
And that's from Treble Mountain. I don't know if you know that one.
So that's actually a legit question.
Yeah.
But the question from this David character, I would say that, what was the question about Bigfoot?
How long does it take Bigfoot to get into his costume?
It depends on the temperature and how much Taco Bell he had before putting on the costume.
Wait a minute, I'm really crushed here. That's a costume? That's
Well, Bigfoot is real, so
Okay.
we don't want to, that's a myth we don't want to bust.
Okay, I just wanted to make
real.
sure.
Yeah, Bigfoot is real.
I'm starting to feel
The
have
second
that
question,
flashback from Santa Claus.
Bigfoot.
Go ahead and give us a little bit about the history of the 9mm.
I was taking a sip of water doing a Rubio there. I will
Rubio.
make sure we get that. Oh, there you go. Still gotta run the camera. I'll tell you what little I know about it. It's interesting. This round has been around quite a while. 1902 was developed by George Luger, as in the German Luger in Germany, and coincidentally, it was developed in conjunction with some officials from the U.S. government. Of course, this was all, a decade or so before World War II. Who would have known that the U.S. was helping to develop this? And I think it came out of the question a moment ago, 9x19 is what the parabellum or 9mm is, obviously now, but I believe it started from the 9x21 and was necked down from that. So that's my understanding. In 1906, it was introduced out by the German army, and of course then they used it against us in World War I, and then subsequently after that, World War II. So that's kind of how I got started. And it was ball ammo. It was either 115 or 116 grain, whereas your NATO now is 124 typically. So, the 9mm just kind of, it was a wartime caliber. And then where it really came into mainstream in the U.S., coming back to lethal weapon. When the Beretta 92 came out, and then you had, then the Beretta was adopted by the military, so you got that going on, replacing the 45, which really hacked off a lot of people, because you're using ball ammo, and ball ammo, either way it's not going to be that effective. But 9mm ball ammo versus, because they're carrying 124 grain ball, versus 230 grain ball and 45 is just not as effective. So a lot of guys are saying, of course they're still using it. It's just not that effective, but it can be.
Now, when you say ball ammo, that was one thing that I had to learn when I first got into it. Explain that to me.
I'm sure that was, you were thinking of various ways.
Well, when I first heard it, I cringed a little bit, but now I know. But explain that.
I'm glad that was your reaction. So, Burt Gummer, I believe, was the other one, if I'm not mistaken. The guy who played Burt Gummer in the Tremors movies. I think he was.
Oh, we talking about
the guy from Facts.
What's his name? Michael. What's his name? Michael.
Yeah.
Is it Michael Gross? Is that
Yes.
Michael
Yes.
Gross.
Is that his name?
Yeah. Michael
Okay.
Gross.
Yeah. So I think if I remember correctly, he was the other bad guy in the Hollywood portrayal of that incident. But it had a very.
I was thinking Remo Williams. Sorry.
Completely.
The guy, Fred Ward, is that his name?
I'm not.
He was in Tremors too.
Okay.
Oh,
Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
Of course, they all tie into. Who's the other guy who's in Tremors? That everybody makes a connection to?
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
So we just made our Kevin Bacon connection.
Wow. Wow, that's a bonus. That wasn't even in the script here.
And see, this is where I geek out completely. Our listeners know that I'm a scientist by trade before I got into the career I'm in.
And that's kind of my career as well. So.
And when I first got into YouTube videos, Hickok was one of the first ones, and I enjoy him. Plinkster.
He's pretty good for a 90-year-old shooter, isn't he?
He is. I thought he was a little older than that.
He's coming up on 93.
Speaking of Bigfoot.
Yeah. But, I enjoy all those videos. But then somebody turned me on to your videos a couple months ago. And, it's got the science, it's got the physics, it's got the ballistics.
A little bit of comedy.
Oh, a little bit of comedy.
A little bit.
I love that stuff. I geek out to the science of, and that's one of the things that got me back into the firearms.
It is ammo, and this is kind of the sick disease that I've acquired in the last 3 or 4 years. I can look at around, I can tell you who makes it and the bullet weight. Bring it on.
Pop quiz.
Bring it on.
Hang on, let me see.
Here we go. Okay, we have a law enforcement test. Oh my God.
Okay. I've got one over here for you.
That's the 230 grain gold dot. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a Spear. It's a 45 ACP. This is what Bruce is carrying here. But
Oh, yeah.
you can look and see how far the bullet is seated, and I'm saying that's not a 185, it's not a 200, and it's not a 230, because I know that's a 230 grain gold dot.
Do you approve?
Oh, absolutely.
Was he right? He's right? Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a 230.
Here's left hand's carry.
Alright, I'm going to take my glasses off to do this. Almost looks like a Federal or Hornady bulk ammo. PPU, Privy Partisan. Wow, where'd you find that? It's Privy Partisan, and it is 180 grain because you can see
Yes,
where the
it
bullet
is.
is seated to that point right there. Is that correct?
Very good.
I'm
Yes,
2%.
sir.
Alright.
This is disturbing. It's a sick disease.
Mine's easy because my little polymer insert gives it away.
Oh, it's a critical defense. Oh, you got the zombie, man.
The zombie load.
So I criticized you earlier for getting a Glock 19. Of course, that was being sarcastic. But
So now you stand by.
Those were a
I
Christmas
stand by
gift.
it. I was being
Yeah,
sarcastic with the Glock 19, but with this crap, I have
It's as
tested.
gimmicky as it gets, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
It was a
the-
Christmas gift, so
That's the 180 grain critical defense. So you're getting, this is another sick thing, I know the stats. So they're advertising just over 1,000 feet per second with this. I like Hornady, and I'm not going to sit here tonight and bash companies or ammo like I would you and your Glock 19, sarcastic. but seriously, I get the questions all the time. It's the 124 grain plus piece sphere gold dot. That is a very good load, it's bonded load. It has street credentials, and that's another thing.
Street cred.
Dude, the Zombie Max does not have street creds. I'm sorry.
told you, it was
just
a
doesn't.
gift.
No, it just doesn't work
not
like
been a
that.
zombie
No.
outbreak yet. How can it have street cred when we don't have
Oh.
something to test it?
AWB passes, but anyway, I didn't say that. But the Zombie Max. Oh man, that's just ridiculous. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about that off record here. That's crap.
Right.
Alright, so thank you Bruce for coming by. Thank you 10 Outdoors 9.
Appreciate you guys taking the time.
It's been a good time. And left hand as always, keep your loved ones close.
And keep your firearms closer.